Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're a first-time listener, my name is Aaron Brockett. I'm the lead pastor of Traders Point Christian Church, and I'm joined by my friend Ryan Bramlett. Ryan, good to have you.
It's good to be back with you, man.
And we have been talking about influence this whole season of the podcast, and one of the things that I don't even know where this sort of originated, but several years ago, we were talking about the idea that as a church, if we ceased to exist, if our doors shut for the final time, would anybody in the community who wasn't a part of our church, would they notice or would they care? And that sort of motivated us then to say, what we do as a church isn't just relegated to once a week on a weekend, where we all gather inside of a building and worship. That's an important part of what we do, but it cannot be the only thing that we do. And so we really said, what can we do to make a tangible difference out in the community, in the lives of people that may never enter our doors ever? One of the things, anytime we buy like a grocery store to put a campus in, oftentimes, I'll maybe read some of the comments from the community. And one of the sentiments that will oftentimes get expressed is, churches should pay property taxes, and however you feel on that. But I will say that we recognize the gift and the benefit that is, but we want to give back from that. Yeah. So what we want to be able to go out and meet real tangible needs. Clothing items, food, make sure that teachers are resourced in their classrooms. So it's not just us. We certainly never want to just be in a position where we would be taking from the community, but that we would be giving back in significant ways. So with that said, I've got two women on our staff. They're at the tip of the spear on all of our outreach efforts in the community and around the world. Shannon Garcia and Emily Day. Welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Thank you.
So that was very coordinated.
Wow.
I like that.
You guys practiced
You
that.
guys practiced that, didn't you? Hey, welcome to the podcast. So thrilled to have you on. Why don't you guys tell us just a little bit about who you are and your role here?
Yep, great. So my name is Shannon, and I've been at Traders Point. Our family has been here since 2010. I've been married for almost 13 years. My husband immigrated here from Mexico, so we have an intercultural marriage. And I have two kids, Selah, who is 10, and Mateo, who is 8. Third grade.
Yeah, and I'm Emily. Grew up a preacher's kid, fell in love with the church at a really young age and wanted to serve it. And so I went to Bible college and met my husband. We got married. His name is Josh. We've been married 12 years. We have 3 kids, a 6-year-old daughter named Vera, and then we are foster parents. So we have had a sibling group of boys who are 1 and 3 for about a year and a half now. So that's a little bit about us. And I am our foster and adoption ministry pastor here.
Yeah. Excellent. I love it. Well, what were some of your experiences? What sparked your interest initially in outreach?
Yeah. I was trying to figure out, how do you pack 30 years of information into a short period of time? But for me, it really started at a young age. My parents were very proactive, encouraging me and my sisters to get out into the world, to be a blessing, to make a difference, to see the world that God had created and the people that were in it. So I started doing mission trips from a young age. And then when I was 15, I went to a Christ in Youth conference. And it was at that conference that God really broke my heart. And I committed to give myself to full-time ministry.
I did that too at the same age.
Yes.
Okay,
What year was that?
2000.
That would age me. I don't know.
2003.
I just thought about that. Okay.
Yeah, 2003,
You guys are
I think,
still
for
so
me.
young, though. The reason why I say that is because I interned at CIY doing conferences, and I was the missions intern. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Yeah, so I was the missions intern for CIY the summer of...
You might have been there.
Well, no. It was the summer of 1995. So you guys were probably in grade school or something. But but I remember I had applied to do, I'd never been on a mission trip before.
Yeah.
So it was my freshman year of Bible college, and I was like, I need to go on a mission trip. So I applied, and I don't even know why I picked it. I think I picked it because it was the longest one, but it was a month in Russia. And then, so I got approved to go, raising all the money to go. And the CIY director, the missions director, came to me and he said, hey, after you get back from Russia with us, because it was going to be all of June, he said, do you want to travel with us all of July and go to conferences and be on the team and teach missions, the missions workshop? I was
like, yes.
19 years old.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay.
That's
And so
amazing.
I went to Russia with him for a month, and I taught all the missions classes. So I just thought maybe there was a possibility that I changed your life.
I don't
But I
think
realized
it
that
was.
this was
It was
way
God.
before.
It was God. Yeah.
But God can
sorry.
work through me.
Yes.
But anyway,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
but this was much, much later. This
Much
was in
later.
the 2000s.
In the 2000s.
Yes. All right.
Yes.
So thanks for that. Thanks for indulging me on that rabbit trail.
That was great. That was a great tangent. Yes. So I really thought when I was called to full-time ministry that meant I was going to be a missionary for the rest of my life. I felt very confident in that. I went to a Christian university. I got my undergrad in intercultural studies and my ESL certification so that I could teach English. And as soon as I graduated college, the next month I moved to Asia. I thought I was going to be there for years and years and years. I was teaching English to college-age students and young adults, and then I was volunteering at a foster home for special needs kids. And through my first year there, I started interacting with a little boy that my parents then decided to adopt. Wow. And so because of that, I moved back to the States early because I wanted to be here when Daniel joined our family. And then I was like, wait, what am I doing? I'm not a missionary. What is my next step? God opened up the door for me to move here to Indianapolis in 2008. And I started working for a missions organization on the north side. And I was with them for 6 years and just got to work with their summer internship programs and their long-term missionaries, help raise them up and send them out to go make a difference in the world. And then God led me here to staff in 2014. So I've been here for almost 8 years now and in this role in outreach for a year. So it's been really, really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, working with vulnerable children is personal. My husband grew up, was born to a 16-year-old mother who did not have a lot of support. He was the first one to graduate high school, first one to graduate college, and really changed the cycle of brokenness. And he did that because of the people that stepped into his life, that poured into him, that said, hey, we're going to stand in the gap and we're going to break this cycle. And so just seeing the impact, I mean, we would not be here today. I would not have a daughter if it wasn't for that. And so it is personal, but also to show dignity to the bio family. I think a lot of times, you know, we can come into this world and have a savior complex and save these kids in foster care or vulnerable children. But, you know, if a child is vulnerable, that means their family is probably vulnerable. And so this is a great ministry opportunity to really pour into the bio families as well and to show them dignity. So yeah, It's been a great opportunity and I get to do it every day. I love it. So
Incredible. Would love it if you guys could just take a second and give us a snapshot of what does outreach look like at Traders Point, kind of the structure, the vision, all of it.
Yeah. It's so funny when I think people are confused by that a lot and they'll be like, so what does outreach actually mean? And I'm like, it means a lot of things at Traders Point, actually. But we really break it down into 4 parts that we focus on. So obviously, all of our global outreach efforts, our global partners, the mission trips that we do, but also our local outreach efforts, what we're doing right here in the community with organizations. Also, our foster and adoption ministry, which we call FAM, that Emily is a part of. And then also our crisis response efforts. So when something happens in the U.S. or across the globe, how do we as a church step into that and respond and make a difference? So we really break it up into 4 parts. And I feel like, Aaron, you kind of even already set it up well. You say this a lot, but when we talk about outreach at Traders Point and what we focus on, we talk a lot about we want to multiply leaders, we want to multiply churches, and then we want to meet those tangible needs. And for us, it's really reaching and meeting the needs of the most vulnerable, which are vulnerable children and their families.
yeah. Yeah.
So our partnerships are a really important part of what we do. So we have local partners, global partners.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how we select partners and just how that whole process unfolds.
Yeah. So obviously, yes, like I said, we really look for organizations that are passionate about multiplying the next generation of kingdom workers, so leadership development. We really come alongside church plants and have a heart to see more churches multiplied, especially in really difficult areas where there aren't many churches. And we know that more people need to be reached with the gospel. And then, yes, do they serve with vulnerable children in some capacity? I think for us, we've kind of come up as as a team, how do we really stay focused in what we do? Because there are so many needs. There are so many organizations reaching out to us on a daily basis. And so it would be so easy for us to get really scattered.
Can I share the first week I started on this team? I realized, oh my word, I get to help people. Like, that's what I get to do all the time. But then every day there was a need that would come through. And I'm like, we have to help them. Like, if we don't help them, who's going to help them? And so Shannon really taught me, like, hey, we have a strategy and we're really intentional about this. And God he is sovereign, someone will help them. You don't have to help every person.
Every single need. I think with that, though, it's just that we want to maximize the resources that God has given our church through our people and their generosity. And so, yes, we could do a lot of different things and they're all really good things, but how do we really lean in and maximize our resources to maximize the impact? So we try to stay super focused on the leadership development, the vulnerable kids, and the church planting. But then also we've just come up with some other values as a team that we really, really care about. One of those is that we're relational, not transactional. I think oftentimes in outreach efforts, it's very easy to be transactional, to do a thing. It makes us feel good about ourselves. We can pat ourselves on the back for that. But we know that real lasting change happens through relationship when we get side to side with people, when we lean in and we learn their stories and we share the love of Jesus with them. And so we want to come alongside organizations that take a relational approach, that really lean into that and desire that, because we know that's where real lasting change can happen. Another thing that you just talked about a second ago, Emily, was just giving dignity to people. I think American churches, we can mean really, really well, but sometimes we can actually hurt instead of help the people that we're serving. And I think a lot of times that's because we try to do for them what we could actually empower them to do for themselves. And so we don't give them dignity in that process. We strip that from them. And so we really try to come alongside partners that take a holistic approach. Mental, spiritual, emotional, physical needs, all of those are connected in a person. And so how do we meet all of those needs? That's where real lasting transformation takes place. And so, just making sure that we're really helping and not hurting people, not creating dependence on us when we want to be helping them have a dependence on God.
And just running to the broken, that's hard and it's messy and it's uncomfortable. And if we didn't have the gospel, encouraging us to do that, I don't know if we would, because why would you run into the messy? But it is so important, and that's where God uses his strength and through our weakness to love on those. It is an honor and a joy to do it, but it's hard and it's messy. But that's where God, shines. So,
I think another thing that we really want to try to remember with our partnerships and the things that we do as a church is looking at a long-term approach versus just a short-term approach. Again, I think it's like our tendency to have short-term fixes, and if I just throw a little something at this, it'll make it better. But we just know that that's not how it always works, and that when you are stepping into brokenness, you do have to take a long-term approach to that. It can take a long time to see real transformation happen in people and for them to be empowered with the resources and the tools that they need to be successful. And so we want to step into ministries that are taking that long-term approach. We just believe that that's so important.
That's so good. And, like Aaron was saying, you guys are tip of the spear on this. You're meeting with people, with partners, with individuals, specific communities, both here in the city and around the world. What are some of when you think about this very unique season that we're in, what are some of the specific needs that you guys are seeing that are coming to the top? And maybe what are some of the unique opportunities that have kind of set us up as a church to meet those needs?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with FAM, and then Shannon can kind of share some of our local and global partners. But so we are actually in the resource center. I don't know if you guys can see in the background all the diapers and wipes and car seats and strollers. And this is from the generosity of our church. Wow. And so we could not do this without you guys. And so that is a need that you can give generously. We have things on our Amazon wish list for $10 all the way up to $150. And so we want to make sure that everybody can do something. We also support foster families through care communities. So being a foster parent is hard. It's a lot more I could say with that. But if you have community around you, it's a lot easier. And actually, they have found if you have this wraparound support, 50% of foster families will quit after their first placement if they don't have support, but 90% will stay on if they have that wraparound support. And so, I mean, that number is staggering, and we want to stand in the foster crisis and help. And so we do that through all different ways. Again, everybody can do something. We have a handyman team. If they're handy, they can come and help.
I noticed that
with the
list
house.
didn't get put to me, and I was curious as to why I didn't get asked to be a part of that certain effort.
There's still room.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll
I don't
email you.
think I would trust.
Oh, okay.
with
I
that,
mean,
but-
That's fair.
listen, I would take the help. As a foster parent, I would take any help. So, come on. But also meals. One less meal you have to think about throughout the week. You can help provide a meal, childcare, transportation, all of that. Everybody can do something. So those are some ways. We also want to support people that work in child welfare. They have a very hard, thankless job. And so supporting them, we get the opportunity to provide lunch for them once a month, which is really exciting, and just love on them and say, hey, we see you and we know this is hard and we're here with you, championing you. So those are some ways that you can serve with FAM, but you want to talk about local opportunities, even through Rooted, what we've got to see.
Yeah, I think the cool thing that I've been able to see since I've been in this role is just the heart that all of us really have to help the people inside the walls of Traders Point be able to make a difference outside the walls of Traders Point. Again, Emily said she gets all the needs and she wants to do them all herself. And I'm like, no, that's why we have the body of Christ. We want to engage all of the people at all of our campuses to feel like they have a part to play and that they can make a difference. And so I get really excited just about the local outreach efforts, the way that we're coming alongside some of our local partners that are doing a variety of different things, from supporting those that are a part of trafficking and trying to help provide them with resources, to those working in some of our poorer communities of Indianapolis to see real lasting change, working alongside vulnerable kids in a variety of different capacities, working with the homeless. And so the needs are great. It's just helping people be aware of what those needs are and that they can actually do something about it themselves. And so I get really excited. Rooted has started here at Traders Point. I think helping people, just giving it to them. Hey, here are all of our partners that we come alongside, that we believe in, that we support, that we're excited about. And we've already created the opportunities for you. And now you get to go out together as a group and serve and engage with a partner and help meet a tangible need. I think that that's really awesome. And we've seen so many really great things come out of that, because then people are taking next steps in serving, whether that's here inside the walls of Traders Point or with a partner outside the walls. So that's been really, really exciting too.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. A Rooted Serve opportunity is to make a care package for a child welfare worker. And so we've had people that have started small, and now they have so much skin in the game because they're like, hey, we want to do more. We want to support this. So that's been so fun to just walk alongside and see those people taking that next step. So.
That's so great. Are there any stories recently that have kind of come across your guys' office where you're like, man, this is so cool. This is why we do what we do. It's just really encouraged you.
Yeah.
All the time.
I know. It's so fun. It is so fun. So I'll start. We had a little girl, Belle. She had her 5th birthday party. And for her birthday, she had read a story about a princess that provided supplies and needs to the village. And instead of collecting presents for herself for her birthday, she wanted to give back. And so Belle saw this and said, I want to give back. And then for her 5th birthday, instead of receiving gifts from friends, she actually asked them to bring in diapers and wipes for our resource center. And so Belle got to come with her mom to the resource center right here where we are and drop off boxes of diapers and wipes. And she's 5 years old. So I love that story because it's like any age, you know, at 5 years old, at 75, you can do something and make a difference. So
Wow.
Will you tell them about the blanket ladies too?
the blanket ladies are amazing. Okay, so we have a thing called journey bags, and a journey bag is given to a child on the first day they're removed from their home to enter foster care. And I just want you to think about how vulnerable that is for a moment. I mean, think back to if that was you, you know, you're in your house and unfortunately because of circumstances you have to be removed, and a lot of times they don't get to take anything with them. And so you're going to a stranger's house. You have nothing but the clothes on your back, and just how vulnerable and terrifying that is. And so we get the opportunity on that first day to provide a journey bag for them that has some hygiene products in it, but it also has a homemade blanket that we give them. And that blanket is there to help just provide that security for them. And we actually have women in our church that make those blankets. So they come every other Friday to our Northwest campus. It's a big party. They're here for 2 hours in the morning. It's so fun. And they, just help make blankets. And it's been great for them too, because they get that community and get to be together, but also to serve the most vulnerable. So, yeah.
And those blankets aren't even just going to journey bags, because now they're also going to a local hospital.
Yep, Riley.
That we're able to get blankets to as well. So the impact reaches more than just the journey bags. But yeah, that's super fun. One story that I would share that has really stuck out to me this year, and it came out of a rooted group. So we had a group that decided that they wanted to engage with one of our partners, Ascent 121, who works with victims of trafficking. And they were really apprehensive for a variety of reasons. They didn't know much about trafficking or that it even existed in Indianapolis. You know, they just didn't really know what to expect. But Ascent 121 does this prayer journey. You go to different parts of the city and you pray over buildings and places that they reach. And so this group went all together and they started making these stops in the city, and they started getting out and praying together. And they went to one location and they got out and they started praying. And some of the people from the location came out like a little concerned, like, who are these people and what are they doing? And they were like, oh, you know, they explained we're with Ascent 121 and we're praying. They're like, oh my goodness, we love them. We love what they do. We love what they're about. They have just done so much for us. So they jumped in with this rooted group and started praying all together, just right there on the street, which I thought was awesome. But then one of the ladies in that group was so moved and her heart was so broken by the experience that she was like, I've got to do more. And so she said, I'm going to like do a donation drive in my neighborhood and encourage all of my neighbors to start gathering supplies that Ascent 121 needs. So she did. And then one of the neighbors in her neighborhood works for CVS. And so that person was like, well, I can get you tons of items. So then they just started collecting boxes and boxes of items that she was able to get from CVS to donate to Ascent 121. And so I always tell our team, like, that's what it's all about. When we can give people an easy way to experience a need around them, if we can encourage them to pray and have their heart broken for that need, and then they're so moved by it that they want to take a next step, and then they take it a step further and they involve the people in their lives and mobilize those around them to also make a difference, that to me just fills me up and gets me so excited.
Yes.
So that's been a huge win for me this year.
That's awesome.
That's so good. And I know, you know, everything that you guys are saying, serving, loving, meeting the needs of vulnerable people, kids, families. No one's like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's like, we all feel compelled to do that. But at the same time, we know that there's a lot of people that aren't, but for different reasons. I know a lot of reasons or maybe even excuses come up with, like, I want to, but I just can't right now. What are some of the big ones that you guys hear? And then how would you respond to those right now?
Yeah, our team thought through a lot of those barriers when we first started. Hey, how are we going to do this? How are we going to build momentum in outreach at Traders Point? And I would say the top three that we've talked about are, I'm too busy. I have a fear of interacting with people that are different than me. And then I'm just not really sure if I have the knowledge or experience that I need to do it. There are lots, but those are the top three that we probably hear most commonly. So I told Aaron and Ryan that I was going to throw this back on them and they get to be in the hot seat. But Aaron, what would you say to people that say, I'm just too busy, I don't have the time?
Well, I think, all of us are busy.
Yeah.
And I think that, recognizing like we make time for the things that really matter, right?
Yeah.
Like that's true for all of us. So we all have a fixed amount of time on the calendar, and I think breaking it down to even say, well, what about once a month or once every other couple weeks or whatever? Could we take an afternoon and commit it to this? So I think I would say I understand it. I think all of us are busy. I think all of us could probably use that excuse, but to say we usually prioritize the things that matter most to us. I don't know. How was that response, Shannon?
That was great.
Was it a good
Well done.
response?
A+.
Yeah.
You get an
You
A+
gonna
for
quote
that
me on
answer. No, but I was also thinking, like, for those that are parents or have kids, like, involve them
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
process. Make it a
Yes.
family thing. We have so
Yes.
many ways that families can engage. And I think, man, when you start with your kids at a young age, I mean, I'm a product of that because my parents started engaging us in that as
Yes.
kids. It broke our heart for it early on. So I'm also just really passionate about like make time together as a family to do it, even if it is just like once a month.
Yeah. I mean, one of my like favorite moments with, two of my kids, when Campbell was 12, she's 18 now, but when she was 12, I went to Cape Town, South Africa on a mission trip. And so I took her with me. So it was the furthest away. I mean, that's way down there.
Yeah,
And-
that's a haul.
And we were in the slums at Cape Town. And, she, stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, was this little blonde-headed girl, blue eyes, I mean, everybody was, and I've got these amazing pictures with her, like, sitting in the streets with these kids. And she was really impacted by that time. And then a few years ago, whenever we did the child sponsorships through Compassion on Easter, Connor and I went to South America to visit the community that our church kind of sponsored, and get to meet a couple of our sponsored kids through that. And just and those are mission trips, but obviously there can be local stuff that we might even be able to do a whole lot easier. But I think as a parent, even like looking for those real defining moments to get your kids in that environment, because I think that it gives them perspective. Gets them away from their screens, helps them to see that, how blessed they really are. It's really those really defining moments when you can serve together. I know that we have a lot of families that will go down to like Wheeler Mission and serve together periodically. And I think you have to be strategic. And you have to be pretty disciplined. You got to like put it on the calendar and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. I mean, we obviously at times do that with like family movie night, but could we prioritize that time for our family?
Yeah. And another opportunity is right here in the Resource Center to be able to serve as a family and take what's in this room to a vulnerable family. And I've gotten to do that when my daughter, is 3. We're starting that conversation, which is really cool. But she is also, when they are serving at a young age, it's going to compel them to continue to serve, on into adulthood. And that's why it's so important to, like, what they are seeing you do right now, they will model. And so if you make that service a priority, like, they're going to do that too. So, because they're going to see the change in you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that was a little tangent, but now, Ryan, you are in the hot seat. So the barrier of I have a fear of interacting with people that are different than me.
Yeah.
I know that you just had the opportunity to go overseas for the very first time.
For sure.
To Kenya. Did you have any of those fears? And maybe like what did God teach you through that?
Ryan, have you ever left the West Side?
No.
First of all.
So
okay.
that's a better-
Let's talk about that.
It was a big jump for me. I left Indy maybe twice before going to Africa. But no, there was definitely a lot of fear of that. I kind of pride myself in, being from Indy. But at the same time, I grew up in a pretty large school, very diverse school, which helped me interact with a lot of different people, which I still hold to. Like, it was an amazing experience that I got. But when I started to begin to think about, okay, this isn't Indy. This isn't from the west side of Indy to the east side of Indy. This is to Africa, to Kenya, where there's different languages, different cultures. And I'm such a very sensitive to, like, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to disrespect anyone for sure. And I was just like, I'm going to probably mess this thing up horribly. And I was really overwhelmed going over there. But once I got there, and this is just my experience, but there are so many things that are universal that really kind of, all those fears, a lot of them dissipated once I got there and began to interact of like kindness works across the globe. connecting with people, listening, caring about what they are. And then you pick up the little cues and you do drop a few things, but most people are very gracious with the fact. So I would say a week in, I've only had one mission trip, but just getting in there, those fears dissipated once I got into it, for sure. And I can't wait to go back. And we have an incredible partner in Kenya, Mohi, which I know we're going to do some little sneak peek, more stuff with them in the future. But it was eye-opening to see, the slums of Kenya, but then to see the faith of people outside of this country who just had a yearning and a vision that God would come and meet the needs of his people there, and just starting one school. And then it just grew and it grew and it grew. And now they have like 30 schools. They're reaching almost 30,000 kids. And not only just a school, it is a Christian school where they're teaching the gospel and they're planting churches. And they have this vision to reach 100 schools and 100 churches and 100,000 kids. And it was just like, it really set a fire in me. And it was just that old cliche of like, when you go to step out, you are definitely impacted just as much, if not more, than the people you go to serve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you weren't relying on your own power. You were completely out of your comfort zone. And again, that's where God is going to show up, and that's where he's going to move when we get out of the way and we have to be dependent on him. So
That's good.
That's awesome.
There's a book that our team just read recently together called When Helping Hurts. But in that book, it really explains a theology of poverty. But like, because of our brokenness, we are all in poverty in some way, right? With God, with each other, with ourselves, and then with creation. And so when you do go and interact with someone that's different than you, like you said, we are all the same because we're all before the cross. We all need Jesus. And so I think once you push yourself out of your comfort zone and actually do it, absolutely, you realize, oh, they taught me way more than I was even able to teach them in any way, shape, or form. So,
Well, and even in those experiences, I mean, I'm sure you guys have been overseas and in maybe a slum setting, very similar to like Kenya. And I think that, the thing that always stands out to me the most is like when you're in like extreme poverty, and we're talking like mud streets, shanties, no electricity, no running water, sewage running down the outside of these homes, little kids playing in sewage, and you're just stunned. And then what stuns you even more is the joy of the people that are living in those circumstances. And you're going, okay, I'm in poverty.
Yes.
Like if with all the stuff that we have and I can't be joyful, like I'm complaining about whatever. And so what I would always I would highly encourage anybody who's never been overseas, who's never been on a mission trip, to go with us to a place like Kenya. We have others, but Kenya's great for a lot of different reasons. But it gives you perspective. So it gets you out. So anytime anybody's just like, well, I'm really nervous to go overseas or go on a mission trip, I'm like, you're the perfect candidate. It's like you go over because you're going to get in a new environment. It kind of reminds me a little bit, C.S. Lewis said, pain is the megaphone of God. I think when you get into a different cultural setting, it helps you to hear God's voice much clearer. You're stripped of everything. You're uncomfortable. You're eating strange food. You're smelling strange smells
that you never smelled
that you've
before.
never smelled before.
Yes.
You're hearing languages. Your cultural customs. Everything is turned upside down. And so what that does, it's uncomfortable. But there's something that's really clarifying about it, where you hear God's voice very clearly in that. We don't go over to Kenya on a mission trip to help them.
No.
We're basically, I know we encourage them. They're so encouraged that we would come. Like they're like, you would come from the United States. They know how far it is. All that way just to meet us and to encourage us. And then we're encouraging them, but they're impacting us way more than we're impacting them. But the needs are so great there, and the local leaders there are so amazing. And so I think it's just a privilege for us to be able just to come alongside them and help them do what they do. Because we want to empower the local leaders to be the ones that make the difference in those communities.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I was going to say, if somebody is like, I hear people, obviously there's some people that can't do that, right? They, for whatever reason, they can't actually go overseas. I think one of the really cool things that we've been able to do as a church is a local mission trip experience. So if people are like, I'm too scared right now to take that step and go overseas, this is a great first step in just engaging in your own city and the needs that are right here in the city. But also, I just always want people to know that there are so many different ways that you can be a part of what God is doing. You can pray, you can give your resources, you can mobilize other people, you can invite other people into it with you. So there are just so many different ways. I think there's never really an excuse for us not to do something, because God has given us lots of different ways to actually do something.
Yeah.
So, okay, last one, Emily. I don't have the
Hot seat.
knowledge or the experience that I need to be able to do this. What would you say?
Yeah, I feel like that is very real, and we can be scared because, we don't want to mess up. We don't have the knowledge. But Jason Johnson, he's a pastor, adoptive dad, foster dad, and he says, when you serve the vulnerable, when you step outside, the gospel is put on display through that. And the gospel will sustain you. In that, and it's our why. It's why we do it, and I have felt that so much. It's why I was called to do it. The gospel has helped sustain me through it, through the hard when I don't want to do it, and because of that, it has been put on display, and it's been a great opportunity to share God. And actually, we work with an organization that really believes in faith communities, and they said that adoptive Christians are twice as likely to adopt and 3 times as likely to foster kids, and it's because we've been compelled to do that through the gospel, and so it is so important, and it is an honor and a privilege to be able to serve the vulnerable. So,
Yeah, I love that. One last kind of question before we begin to wrap up. Holidays are around the corner. That's hard to believe. I was in Costco the other day and I literally saw Christmas trees. I was like, this is stunning. And I think that was in August, actually, whenever I saw that. But holidays are right around the corner. Obviously, we know that means big needs in the community. So what are some ways that we're gearing up as a church to meet those needs, and how can people be involved?
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited in November and December to have 2 ways that our people can respond and make a difference in the lives of vulnerable kids. One is right here in Indianapolis, and the other is working with our partner Missions of Hope in Kenya. So in late November, we're going to have a child sponsorship event with Missions of Hope. Super excited for that. You talked about compassion and getting to meet the kids that you sponsor. And so I'm really excited for our church to be able to step up in this way and say, hey, we'll come alongside giving financially to this child on a monthly basis so that they can have the education and all of the things that they need to be able to have a healthy life. But then go on a mission trip with us to Kenya. Moving forward, we have 2 coming up in 2023. And so I'm excited for people to then maybe take that next step and go and meet the kids that they get to sponsor. So that's really awesome. And then during Christmas, we're going to be partnering again with Shepherd Community Center. They do a Christmas store for their neighborhood families. They do it in a great way that brings dignity to those parents. They get to come in, they pay a small fee to shop in the store, and then they get to pick out the gifts for their kids. So it just offers a lot of hope to families during the Christmas season. So we were able to, as a church, respond in a big way last year, but we're going to go bigger because come on, we can do more. So we're going to be able to provide even more items for them this year. So we're excited about that.
And that's a great way to interact with the whole family. Take your kids to the store. I know it is so easy, and Amazon is incredible to just order on your phone, but make an event of this. Go into a store and buy a present. Let your kids pick it out because they'll remember that. It'll be pretty impactful. So
we did that last year, and it was beautiful. It was hard at first because you're in the toy aisle
and
explaining to them that this is not for you. But once you get them past that space of but really think about what you would want. But you're not going to get it. But what you would want if you were them. But those are still some of the stuff that our family talks about our kids, from packing journey bags to going shopping for the store. It is impactful and lasting. So I would encourage to jump in these holidays. We are in a time where like you guys have been saying this whole time, there are so many opportunities. And every serving opportunity that I've ever been a part of, it really opens the door for gospel-centered conversations to be able to lead to the why of why we are here. That's why I love your guys' approach to it. Relational over transactional. Transactional does not lead to that side of a conversation. So, yeah. Any last minute thoughts, ideas, quotes, wisdom?
A wise quote.
Yeah, I probably have all the wisdom tapped out of me at this point. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you joining us and appreciate what you do for our team, for our church, the way you're leading the way. You're crushing it. So thank you guys. Yeah. Please like, subscribe, share this podcast with your friends and family. It's how we get the word out. And this has been great, guys. We will see you next time.